My name is Parker, and ever since I was a kid, it's been my dream to become a storm chaser. In the great state of Kisota, I live in the town of Hazelton, but for the weekend I've traveled down to the city of Prior Lake since I heard there was going to be a line of storms coming through. While I was a novice, I did research plenty to help me stay prepared for this weekend, as well as I brought some analytical equipment to help me better understand the storms. It does help that a local weather station is paying me for my contributions, but I'm mainly doing this for the thrill. However, not far down the road, it began to hail. Now, I had been given a tablet in which I could document the tornado type, damage recorded, and hail size. And I was quick to report that we were experiencing ping-pong ball-sized hail. And using my radar app on my phone, I was able to accurately determine I was in the middle of a hailstorm. Although it wouldn't be long until a funnel began to descend from the sky. This one was far in the distance, but it was growing larger by the second. Or not. As soon as a bunch of storm chasers and I made it closer to the tornado, it began to lift back up into the sky. Disappointed storm chasers began to rescind from the area, but I recognized it was touching down again. In a desperate bid, I did try and chase after it, but just for it to lift once again.
Seeing a tornado near Prior Lake, moving east at 40 miles per hour.
Moments later, a second funnel cloud descended down behind the first. However, this one failed to reach the ground at all. Although it looked intimidating, it never really amounted to anything. And as I stood beneath it waiting for it to touch down, I felt that it was just a waste of time. Although a debris field did begin to kick up around the tornado, the sun had already set, making it very difficult to see the form and shape of this tornado. In the end, I couldn't get any real readings on it, so I was forced to pack up my equipment and head back. It seemed I wasn't the only person trying to get at this phantom tornado, as several other experienced storm chasers were also waiting in the area. All of us, however, were unable to find the tornado in the darkness.
20 miles per hour.
Although today was a slow day for tornadoes, it also meant it was a safe day. All of these tornadoes touched down in open fields nowhere near major towns or cities. As I wrapped up my day, I began to study the weather patterns projected for tomorrow, so that tomorrow morning I could begin my hunt for more tornadoes. With the beginning of day 2, things were already off to a crazier start than yesterday. Unbeknownst to me, a storm had already come through this area, devastating the plant life and trees along the highway. As I continued to the north, I began to notice circulation, and sure enough, a funnel cloud began to descend. As storm chasers and I began to chase the tornado, we realized it was about to head over a major lake in the area. This would keep local towns safe from more damage, but it also meant that it was nearly impossible to collect any data about it, because we'd have to go into the middle of the lake to find anything. However, I drove over to where I thought it would make landfall and began to set up my equipment to track the speed of the tornado. However, in an act of cruel fate, the tornado lifted just as I placed my equipment down, rendering my findings essentially useless, as the fastest speeds I clocked were 23 miles per hour. This tornado had utterly defeated me. As there was another tornado trekking across the state, I couldn't make it in time before sundown, because I had already committed to coming this far across the state. Day 2 was a failure, but little did I know it would have nothing on the day to follow. Today was my final chance to intercept a tornado, and it started with a bang. A massive wedge tornado began to descend from the sky, and the local town of Hibbing sounded its tornado alarms. This thing was massive and only projected to get bigger, so I knew this would be my best chance to get some accurate readings of the tornado's early speed without getting myself in too much danger.
This storm is capable of producing a strong to violent tornado.
As I drove away from the tornado, I was finally earning some money for my wind speeds that I was recording. I recorded wind speeds of over 90 miles per hour, which is great. However, the tornado continued to expand and grow stronger as it went eastward. At this moment, I could have gone home with this data, but I decided to continue pursuing it. Myself and nearly a dozen storm chasers all set up shop on this causeway as the tornado was about to overtake us. I had no idea just how strong this tornado was, and as I set up shop and began to set up my equipment, I would have no idea that my life would change forever in the next minute and a half. Over an hour after I was pulled from the river and saved by local doctors, the tornado was still going. The information collected from this tornado would prove to be such a great help to the local community and meteorologists. I hastily put down my equipment and knew that I needed to get out before the tornado threw this new truck. However, as I drove off, several more drove in, unaware of the horrors of this oncoming tornado. Wind speeds picked up drastically as the tornado approached the bridge, and storm chasers began to be thrown about. However, I would not be lucky either. Miraculously, I landed in a field opposite the tornado, with several new cuts and bruises, but otherwise okay. However, maybe it was the concussion beginning to kick in, but I decided not to pursue this tornado. Instead, I found a new tornado just west of this one that I would begin to chase. This tornado was shrouded in fog at first, so it wasn't until I came upon it that I realized its magnitude. Today has been a nightmare for Kisota, with this tornado, the other tornado, and another one forming to the north. With night falling, I began to realize that it wasn't worth it anymore. This tornado was too dangerous, and I should just head home with the information I currently have. Reports were already coming in that several storm chasers had lost their lives to this tornado, and I realized I needed to head home. I needed to get back to Hazleton. But as I drove, I noticed something in the distance. Another tornado. Arriving into Hazleton, I couldn't see anything, just the hail falling in front of me and other storm chasers spread around the area. But I would have no idea that a monster tornado was already upon me. Flashing power lines and transformers illuminated the beast, and I realized I had no chance of escape if I were to go home. But I had survived every tornado up until this. I wouldn't let this be the one to cause my downfall. As I parked in front of my house, I realized this would be my last stand. The tornado was already here. Surveying the damage, it was an utter disaster. 3 storm chasers and 6 civilians lost their lives yesterday, and the people that survived were picking up the pieces of their broken homes. The data I collected from these storms was immediately taken to a group of meteorologists so that they could study it, but I knew that more work needed to be done. To help save lives and learn more about this disaster, I would continue chasing storms, as long as it takes.